Our next guest has correctly predicted the last 9 presidential elections. From 1984 through 2012, American University history professor Alan Lichtman's popular vote predictions were perfect, including the 2000 election, which the Supreme Court ultimately awarded to George W. Bush. And in 2016, he predicted an Electoral College victory for Donald Trump, who lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton. And Professor Lichtman joins me now from Bethesda, Maryland. Professor Lichtman, thank you so much for being with us. Not only are your predictions overwhelmingly correct, but you often make them very early. Can you give us an explanation of how your prediction model works?
House Republican Steve Scalise, who was notably a victim of leftist violence, almost lost his life because of leftist insanity. He believes that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez started impeachment inquiry with her one twisted tweet. Now, before I dive into this news, please check to ensure that you are still subscribed to our channel with notifications enabled. And if this is your first time watching, go ahead and tap the button down below to subscribe for real news and a conservative opinion every day. A quick note from our sponsor: the free video that's linked below explains, thanks in part to the 2008 bailout, how you can claim a refund worth as much as $23,000 through a rarely publicized secret.
Documents read in a Scottish court suggest that the British Prime Minister will request a Brexit delay if the UK cannot reach a deal with the EU in the next couple of weeks. The document appears to say that the government will comply with a law that requires it to ask the EU for an extension. But then Boris Johnson tweeted something very different. He said, "New deal or no deal, but no delay," followed by the hashtags "Get Brexit Done" and "Leave October 31st. Complicating matters even further, all the European member states agreed today that Mr. Johnson's proposals do not provide the basis for an agreement. So where does that leave things for the UK and for its Prime Minister? Well, the Prime Minister hasn't come on the show yet, so I sat down with someone who knows him very well, his father. I asked Stanley Johnson if he thinks that his son will be able to rise to the challenge and get Brexit done. Here's what he said.
If anybody now is capable of rising to the challenge, I think it is Boris, because he has, as it were, the sheer determination to drive through this thicket. I mean, he's not taking the bull by the horns. He is the bull with the horns charging through the thicket. And I still think he's going to get it. It being the agreement of the EU to...
And then there were two potential smoking guns, 2 inside accounts from Trump allies, people in touch with both the White House and the Ukrainians, people who suspected that military aid for Ukraine had become tied to the Ukrainian government committing to conducting an investigation that would damage Donald Trump's political opponents. The first was U.S. diplomat Bill Taylor, who wrote this in an encrypted message that was made public by the congressional committees investigating the matter. Quote, "Are we now saying that security assistance and White House meeting are conditioned on investigations?" That same career diplomat, Bill Taylor, also wrote this, quote, "As I said on the phone, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign." A Trump-appointed diplomat would respond with a CYA message disavowing him of that notion, but Taylor wasn't the only person who was starting to suspect that the president had tied military aid for a U.S. ally to investigations that would advance his political objectives. The second we're learning today was Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who told the Wall Street Journal he heard accounts of a potential quid pro quo. From that Journal report, quote, "In an interview, Senator Ron Johnson said he learned of a potential quid pro quo from the U.S. ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, who told him that aid to Ukraine was tied to the desire by Mr. Trump and his allies to have Kiev undertake investigations that the president has sought." That right there, the connection of military aid for Ukraine to Donald Trump's political operations is what lies at the center of this fast-moving scandal that has ensnared the president and his cabinet, including multiple diplomats. One such diplomat is former envoy to the Ukraine, Kurt Volker, who at this hour yesterday was behind closed doors in the first deposition of the House impeachment investigation. His 9.5 hours of testimony yielding a treasure trove of what may come to be known as the 2019 version of the Nixon tapes, encrypted messages and texts, including this one, which Volker sent to a Ukrainian official
We have not spoken directly with the whistleblower. We would like to, but I'm sure the whistleblower has concerns that he has not been advised, as the law requires, by the Inspector General or the Director of National Intelligence, just as to how he is to communicate with Congress. And so the risk for the whistleblower is retaliation.
So those comments from Adam Schiff a few weeks back, landing in the House Intel chair in some hot water. The Washington Post gave him 4 Pinocchios. They call the claim that his committee has not spoken to the whistleblower a flat-out lie. Kimberly Strassel also took up the issue in the Wall Street Journal, asking if the public can't trust Mr. Schiff to be honest about the origins of his information, why should they trust his claim that the information itself is serious? It's a good question. Here now, Trey Gowdy, former House Oversight Committee chairman and now a Fox News contributor. Trey, good evening to you. Good to see you tonight. So what do you think about the 4 Pinocchios?
I think he got 4 only because you can't get 5. I mean, he got the maximum sentence you could get from the Washington Post fact checker. And don't you know how hard that was for the Washington Post to give Adam Schiff 4 Pinocchios?
But they did, to their credit.
They just made it up. Look, that's the 7th sign of the apocalypse when that happens. So I got to get my affairs in order. But, yeah, kudos to them for pointing out that Adam Schiff totally made something up. But he's also a career offender, Martha. It's the same guy that had the parody a week or so ago, the same guy that says he has evidence that even Mueller couldn't find. The question I have is, how long is Speaker Pelosi going to put up with Adam mishandling this investigation? She's already taken it away from Jerry Nadler. I'm sure the guys and gals on the Judiciary Committee are not happy about having Adam Schiff do it. But if you're going to do it, at least don't screw it up, Adam. And right now, he's made himself a fact witness. He is in the evidentiary chain for what happened with this whistleblower, and I hope the Republicans make him testify.
Yeah, I mean, he easily could have answered that question honestly and, you know, and said, yes, he came to our office. We put him through the proper channels or her through the proper channels. You know, why do you think he didn't? I mean, does it say something about deeper involvement on his part? I mean, what does that reveal, that he wasn't willing to say that, I wonder?
In the words of Patty Loveless,